All right, so we're live. This is it. No takesies, backsies. Hey everyone, I'm Martin Foster from AM Sports, and you're watching the very first live edition of AM Sports, the first of hopefully many. I can't do this alone. Alex is currently stuck in traffic, but that's okay, because I'm joined by my very handsome friend, columnist, co-host of Two Guys Podcast, columnist for Big Sky and 4for4, and a life coach for Dwayne Thompson.
He needs it. He needs it,
Mr. Brandon Niles. Brandon, what's up, man?
Not much, man. Thanks so much for having me on. This is a great venue, an exciting thing to be a part of, and I love your show.
Thanks, man. I love your guys' show as well, and I think this is your third time on my show, which is you're going into the AM Sports Hall of Fame.
I feel special. I want to be like those Saturday Night Live people, the 5 times hosting.
Oh, yeah, like Justin Timberlake and Steve Martin. And
I want to get like a jacket to put on or something, the AM Sports, host, 5-time, 10-timer club. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, that's cool. I don't have that budget, so maybe I'll send you like a nice number 2 pencil.
That sounds good. Sounds good.
Yeah. Again, everyone, we'll start taking questions if you're able to chat in. Just type Q and then your questions. So I know you have a question. If not, you can type in comments. Like Martin, you have sleepy hair today. That's my nickname by some of my friends. If you're just watching and you can't chat in, just do something on Facebook. Like just put on my wall so I know that you can hear me. I'm checking Facebook right now on my phone.
I'm calmly drinking water like this. Like we're in the living room and just having a chat,
Yeah. Hey, congrats to you, man. I saw that your wife is pregnant, correct?
Thank you. Yeah, due in July, little baby girl.
Yeah, cool. And then you had a taco lunch yesterday.
I had a taco. I have a taco. You know what? That's something I got to bring up, right? So my wife announces this in this cute, wonderful way she put together with her sister, Nikki, who's delightfully talented. And they put this up on Facebook, and a flowing thing of congratulations and all these nice things and people are offering all these things about talking babies, but not one person has offered to talk tacos with me.
Let's talk tacos before we get into NFL free agency. Let's do 60 seconds on tacos.
I tell you, but tacos are the perfect food. If tacos need a spokesperson, I would love to be the taco spokesperson out there. And I'm talking any kind of taco you're looking for. A hard shell, a soft shell. I might get a little burrito level. It's crazy, absolutely crazy.
For those just tuning in, this is AM Sports. We're gonna start talking some NFL free agency with my good friend, NFL columnist Brandon Niles. Before we do that, prior to the show, we were just chit-chatting before we actually started recording. We were talking about celebrities going to dances and proms and military balls with service members. For the record, I've said this in Alex and I's first podcast. I'm the one who initially started that. I did that back in 2007 before it was popular. Nothing came of it though, because the YouTube was out then, but it wasn't as big. Mm-hmm. But I actually wrote a fan letter to an actress and asked her to go to the Air Force Ball with me. And my wife was totally cool with this. I got it cleared through my wife, like, hey, I want to ask this actress to go to the Air Force Ball with me. And but obviously that didn't happen. So
Channing Tatum turned you down?
Channing Tatum turned me down, so which is shocking because I was pre-Magic Mike. So I know his his star rise has kind of just blasted off in the past couple of years, but this is right after Coach Carter, back when it was Anne Hathaway. That's who I wrote. So,
she should have gone with you. I think she missed out personally.
Yes, she did. Screw her. All right, man. So let's talk some NFL free agency. Free agency is always an exciting time. I think I love this especially between NFL and the NBA. What do you think is the bigger circus in free agency? Which one has a bigger frenzy between the NFL and NBA? Because it seems like I know last summer in the NBA, there was a lot of stuff going on with the moratorium period and DeAndre Jordan, all that. But the NFL free agency is pretty exciting too. So which one do you think has like a bigger media frenzy?
Oh, that's tough. That's tough. I would say the NFL because more players and more quality players tend to move teams. So you get
Yeah,
much bigger names that move on an annual basis. Whereas the NBA is usually you got two guys. You got one or two guys.
yeah,
The media is following like crazy, and then things kind of drop off a little bit. Like this year, once Dwight Howard, assuming he opts out of his deal with Houston, once he signs somewhere, once Kevin Durant re-signs with Oklahoma City. Once that happens, I think the media circus will kind of drop off. Whereas the NFL, you've got like a good solid week of a flurry of activity with huge dollars going to backups and guys who maybe kind of fallen out of sort with the team, and you've got cap issues. So it's last year we saw Ndamukong Suh move on. This year we see guys like, well, I guess Von Miller got the franchise tag, so he didn't move. But guys like Lamar Miller, Olivier Vernon went on. Dolphins. But yeah, you see, I think more names within that week that kind of kick off that media circus.
Some of the bigger name free agents recently signed franchise tags between, you mentioned Von Miller and also Josh Norman, the cornerback for the Panthers. And so franchise, it kind of took some of the marquee, those franchise tags took some of the marquee names off the free agent market. I want to ask you, so overall, were there any signings that you really liked or disliked?
I liked Lamar Miller going to Houston. I think Lamar Miller, the fact that he's a 25-year-old running back without a lot of tread on his tires, and they signed him for under $5 million a year, or under $6 million a year, I think is pretty good value. I wouldn't like him at $10 million a year or something along those lines. But 25-year-old playmaking guy who's been underused throughout his career, I like him going to a team like Houston that's going to give him the rock. So I was pumped by that. I thought Janoris Jenkins, while it's a lot of money, provides an upgrade in the secondary for the Giants. Giants kind of targeted the side of the ball that was the problem for them last year.
Yeah.
Paid a lot of money to do it, but upgraded those spots. So I was happy with that. And then I'm always really impressed with those teams that kind of take a reserved approach. Like Pittsburgh re-signed their special teams guys and then quietly went out and just kind of filled out their roster. So I kind of like them being quiet in free agency. Green Bay is always good at re-signing their own guys where they can. And so I like that. And then I thought Minnesota did a really good job. Their biggest problem last year was the offensive line, and they went out and they signed Andre Smith, the Bengals tackle, and then got Alex Boone, the 49ers guard. Pretty reasonable short-term deals, and instantly upgrades the biggest weakness on the team. So those are kind of the measured approaches that I liked going into free agency.
And speaking of the Vikings, those are both relatively young guys to upgrade that offensive line. So, and of course, they drafted Matt Khalil, the number 2 pick, a couple years ago. So they have a young nucleus there. You talked about Janoris Jenkins. I liked him when St. Louis got him because I felt like, he obviously got in some trouble in college and that affected his draft stock. And he was projected, I think, at one time to be a top 10 or even, definitely a first-round pick. And of course, they were able to get him later. So he was a steal for them. But he played well for the Rams past couple of years. His contract with the Giants was seemed kind of high, but at the same time, that's the going way right now of the current NFL is inflation. It seems you have to overpay for certain positions, I guess. So
yeah, I think between him and Olivier Vernon, the pass rusher from he's more than a pass rusher. He's a 3-down defensive end from Miami.
Yeah.
And then Damon, nicknamed Snacks Harrison from the Jets, the nose tackle. I think between those 3 guys, they committed like $200 million worth of money over the next 4 or 5 years. So they're swinging big, and we'll find out if it's a miss. But Janoris Jenkins is a physical, excellent press corner who makes big mistakes and also big plays. But he's a guy who's really going to benefit from the upgrades that they made up front. If you've got a good front 7, it's going to make Janoris Jenkins look that much better because of his physical and aggressive style play. So I like him in New York. You're right. Big risk with the money. With the money. But I think the Giants really identified the problem they had last year. And that division every year is up for the taking. So I kind of applaud what they did in that aggressive fashion, which is different from what I usually say. Normally I'm like, too much money, stay out of free agency. But I kind of like what the Giants did.
For those just tuning in, I'm Martin Foster with AM Sports. Jennifer Anderson has a day off. I'm broadcasting live, the first live episode of the AM Sports from my new Hawaii studio location, a.k.a. my closet, my master bedroom closet. So upgraded from my Ohio closet. Brandon, I know you're a Dolphins fan, but you said you were excited about the Lamar Miller signing with the Texans. Why are you excited? Because I think, to me personally, I like Jay Ajayi. He'll be a lead back in Miami this upcoming season. I think he's going to explode. I think he's going to have a monster year. But is that why you like the Lamar Miller signing? Because they save some money?
I would have liked Lamar Miller staying in Miami for that dollar amount. I would have liked that. I like Lamar Miller a lot. I think Miller wasn't convinced he was going to get the ball 15 to 20 times a game, which is what he wants and honestly deserves. So I'm excited for him getting an opportunity in a team that really needs him, because Houston, for all intents and purposes, Houston's a quarterback and a running back away. I mean, that's really – they're a legit team. If Brock Osweiler pans out, and we won't get into how much I hate that money – but if he were to pan out, even as an above average starter in any way, shape, or form, then Houston could really go far. Now, Miami, I love J.J. as well, and I'm not going to kill them for not giving Lamar Miller $28 million. I'm just not going to kill them for that. I don't like some of the other moves Miami has made, and I haven't been convinced over the past several years that Miami is going to use their talent efficiently. But J.J., one of the few guys I've seen come out of college in recent years, and he had a very productive career at Boise State, who's a 3-down back. This guy, he's a good pass blocker. He's a good runner. He's a violent runner who can not only run in between the tackles, but he's got just enough pop to take it the distance if he needs to. And he's got surprisingly better hands than I think he's shown at the pro level yet in his limited role. So coming into this year, if he's healthy, I think J.J. is going to be very, very good player for Miami. And I echo your thoughts. I think he's going to be a monster. We'll see. Miami could muddy the waters by bringing somebody else in. They tried to sign C.J. Anderson, but
I didn't get that. So
I think it's Adam Gase, the new coach for the Dolphins. He was the offensive coordinator for the Bears last year, but don't forget he was also with Denver a couple years ago when C.J. Anderson looked solid. So I think that's probably where that comes from. We'll see. Maybe Gase won't fall in love with the J.E. like we have, and maybe that'll be a problem. But so I'm a little worried because I don't understand why they're looking at other backs. They brought in Chris Johnson too for a visit, so a little nervous about that. But as long as he gets the rock, I think a J.E. is going to be phenomenal.
That's the key with Miami, because same thing with Lamar Miller. Like I had high expectations for him over the past couple of years. And then he would never get the ball. He would have these 10-touch games. And I'm like, man, give him 20.
Yeah, why give him the ball?
It doesn't necessarily have to be 20 carries up the middle. It could be, 15 rush, 5 pass, or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how good Houston does, because I remember watching the playoff game against Kansas City this past year. And even, they lost the overall game 30-0, but I still think it was 13-0 at halftime, despite the 5 turnovers by Houston. Or whatever Brian Hoyer had. I think he had like four interceptions in the first half or whatever it was.
4 picks, yeah.
And I was like, man, their defense Houston Texans defense is keeping them in this game. And if they only had a good quarterback, and of course but they gave Osweiler that huge contract out of necessity too. We talked I mentioned a few minutes ago about the kind of the inflation of contracts, because when you look at Flacco a couple years ago getting I think $120 million, and Andy Dalton getting $115 and good quarterbacks, but then that just kind of sets okay, I consider those kind of like the mid-tier quarterbacks. What I can do for the market for guys like Aaron Rodgers and and Cam Newton and some of the better type quarterbacks. So so with you, I'm not a big I like Osweiler, just not for that money. So we'll see how that goes. Are there any free agent signings that you didn't like?
Osweiler, I wasn't.
Osweiler,
signing. That's one I didn't like. I didn't like Miami giving Mario Williams $20 million over 2 years, or $18 million, I think was the number. Mario Williams is a really good situational pass rusher at the moment, but he's not a guy that I think can give you an every down production, and that's what you're paying, I think, when you pay $9 million a year. So I wasn't a big fan of that one. I thought Oakland spent big. I like what Oakland did overall, because I think they had the money to spend and they really needed to make some moves. But at the same time, I worry about those guys. I mean, they paid Kalichi Osemele, who's a very good guard, but he's a guard, and they paid him really big money. They paid Sean Smith, who's a good corner from Kansas City, big money to be a top guy. And then they paid Bruce Irvin, another situational pass rusher, big money too. So I'm a little concerned there. And the team that really kind of baffles me in a lot of ways is Jacksonville, because Jacksonville, they had money to spend as well, like Oakland, but they went out and they signed the big names, right? They
Yeah.
signed Malik Jackson to that huge contract, the defensive
Yeah.
lineman from Denver, who to me is a good player, but not an elite player.
Right.
And he's going to come in. He's going to benefit from the fact that he's in Gus Bradley's system. Gus Bradley kind of knows how to use versatile defensive linemen like him. But I'd be very concerned about the money that they gave him. And I feel like in 2-3 years, we're going to be talking about him in the same way that we were talking about Albert Haynesworth when he signed that big deal in Washington, which is what were they thinking? They also spent a lot of money on Prince Amukamara, who's been, for all intents and purposes, a disappointment since he entered the league as a starting corner. They paid money to Tayshaun Gibson. Anyone on that Browns debacle of a defense last year, it concerns me to pay them big money. I'm a little concerned about what they've done. Kelvin Beachum, the left tackle from Pittsburgh, they gave him money. So Jacksonville is probably the team I'm the most concerned about the big signings that they made. And Malik Jackson had that free agent bust looking right at me. I mean, that's going in there. So that's the one I probably dislike the most, outside of Osweiler.
For those watching, if you can, feel free to type questions. If you subscribe, you're able to type questions. If you don't have that option on your mobile device or wherever you're watching, just post a question on my Facebook wall, and I'm checking it throughout the show, so I'll do my best to answer it. I actually liked Oakland's free agency this summer. I feel like they're getting key pieces. I really like the Bruce Irvin signing with them because I feel like when he got drafted by Seattle, I was like, man, this guy's gonna be a bust. I was like, he's undersized, and I just wasn't a fan. And he's like a situational pass rusher, but I think him paired with Khalil Mack, it creates some defensive mismatches in their favor. So I think that Bruce Irvin is a good signing for them, and of course the Osmele signing. I think Oakland's quietly putting together like a pretty solid offensive line. They re-signed Donald Penn a couple of days ago, and of course Rodney Hudson was a good sign for them last year. And they have I think that Oakland has the number 11 pick in this year's draft. No, not the Bears have the number 11 pick, but Oakland has 14. They have the number 14 pick. But so I like to throw in draft as part of the NFL free agency too, because you're really you're gaining a new player. Mm-hmm. So with teams like with Oakland, they put themselves in a pretty strong position with some great draft classes, at least first round and second round picks over the past couple of years. Those have really been paying off, and then some key free agent signings again with the Kalichi Osmele signing, and the even Sean Smith. I really like that he's going to help boost their secondary, mm-hmm. And of course they have the number 14 pick in the first round this year, so they'll be able to select some basically whoever's available for them. They're kind of in a situation where they can draft the best player available.
Yeah, and they benefit a lot in the draft anyway. Not to get too much into the draft, but that tends to be kind of my thing. One thing about the draft that they benefit from is their positions of need are positions that tend to slip in the draft. They've already got their pass rushers, like you said. They signed Bruce Irvin, Khalil Mack is a monster. Mario Edwards quietly put together a great season last year. So they've defensive linemen they've got right. They've got a left tackle, Donald Penn. I mean, he may not be the left tackle of the future, but they've got good wide receivers. They've got their quarterback, they think. So, their big needs are at safety, and, they need probably a good every down middle linebacker, and, they could use probably another guard. And these are a running back maybe to pair with Latavius Murray. So these are positions they can get late, especially the safety position that they can get in the second round. I wouldn't be surprised to see them maybe jump on an Ezekiel Elliott in the first round, the running back from Ohio State, or maybe do something along those lines. Maybe Reggie Ragland, the linebacker from Alabama. And these are guys that are going to improve the team immediately and step in right away, which is a place that I'm not used to seeing Oakland, and it's good to see them get to that spot.
One team I'm kind of surprised about in free agency is the 49ers. I just felt like they signed Zane Beadles the other day, but I just haven't felt like I expected him to make more. I'm not a 49ers fan, but I expected him to make more moves. What are your thoughts on what's going on in San Francisco? Because, 3 years ago, this was a top team and, a contender in the NFC. There was like a 5-year span where it was like, okay, it's not even who's going to win the NFC West. It's like who from the NFC West is going to be in the Super Bowl, the Seahawks or the 49ers. And then just, wow, how the mighty have fallen. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, the San Francisco probably had one of the most meteoric rises and then most tragic collapses that I've seen in recent memory, because they did. Just every year they acquired excellent talent, and then the talent just fled. They had the early retirements of Patrick Willis and other players. They They had all sorts of issues, retaining the talent that they had. And then that whole Jim Harbaugh issue was, there was clearly a lot going on there. I think right now what San Francisco is probably trying to do is identify who on the roster they want to keep and move forward with, and try to unload the people that they can't. I think it's why you saw Alex Boone go away and why they brought in Zane Beatles. They haven't made a lot of moves, which is probably good, honestly, because they don't need to go and sign really expensive veterans at the moment. They need to draft well. I'd like to see them do a little bargain shopping. I always talk about the cornerback position, which is an important position, and it's a position you need top guys at. But it's also a position where guys get paid, and then they underperform, and then they get cut. But they're still quality players. They're just not necessarily worth 10% of your salary cap, right?
Yeah.
So you see this every year. Last year, Panthers signed Charles Tillman, who got hurt later, but he put together excellent time. Every year, Ty Law would wait till August because somebody would be needing a corner, and he would sign for the last 5 years of his career. Those are the types of moves that I expect San Francisco will make as we see the post-draft and training camp and into the preseason. I think they'll start bargain shopping those free agents and bolster their roster that way while they try to identify who the key components of that team are going to be. Like, is Colin Kaepernick the guy? Which to me is the big question in San Francisco.
Yeah.
So
do you think he's on his way out then, or?
Supposedly he's on his way out, but they say that San Francisco is demanding a second-round pick for him, which has been what's kept him, I think, from being on the move, as other teams don't want to do that. Now, if I'm Denver, I absolutely give up a second-round pick for Colin Kaepernick, but that's just me. I think, if you're one of those teams that's a quarterback away, I don't know why you don't give up a late second to gamble on a guy who's already proven he can take a team to the Super Bowl. So, especially
if you have a late second-round pick, because it's pretty much a third-round pick at that point. So
Denver, Houston, looking at the Jets. Why wouldn't the Jets do that? So
maybe the Broncos are sold on Mark Sanchez.
It's possible. And I was talking about that with Dwayne not too long ago, my partner and co-host at the Two Guys podcast. Mark Sanchez, as much as he's not a legit elite starting quarterback, he's not a bad stopgap. And he might provide actually an upgrade on the quarterback play that Denver got last year. So I don't think Mark Sanchez is that bad of a move for Denver, but he's certainly not, like last year, Denver won't be winning because of the quarterback this year.
Yeah. I'm speaking with Brandon Niles, sports columnist for Explore Big Sky, 4for4, and co-host of the Two Guys podcast. And again, he is Dwayne Thompson's life coach and mentor. So overall, we've been talking a lot about NFL free agency. The Jaguars, I think, had the most cap room heading into the free agency offseason. So you're not a big fan of what they've been doing with that money. Because I personally kind of like it's not like, you talked about the signing at corner, and of course Malik Jackson. I think he got overpaid. But I think they kind of have to kind of what Oakland used to have to do in the past, where you kind of have to overpay for certain players in certain positions to come to your team. But I think they're finding players that kind of fit their overall scheme and what they're doing. And I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year by any means, but I think they could very easily win 7 games this year. So overall, you're just not really feeling what they're doing down in Jacksonville.
Well, they're on their way up, and I agree with you there. I like what's going on. I've been on record being very, very down on Blake Bortles ever since he was drafted. I don't think I was right about Blake Bortles. I think now he's, I think he's still got a ways to go. I think a lot of his numbers last year were garbage statistics, but I do think he's much better than what I thought. I thought he'd be a Blaine Gabbert bust. That's what I thought. So the fact that he's not that, I think, is a win for Jacksonville right now. The fact that he still might be a franchise quarterback. I like the young talent they've developed there. I think that the free agency moves they've made this year are a departure from the strategy that they've been on, and that's what I don't like. You could say the same thing about Oakland, but it might just be that I like the players Oakland signed better. But I'm not a big fan of Malik Jackson as a guy who's going to make an impact. To me, he's not that much of an impact player over Jared Odrick, who they signed a year or two ago from Miami. Yeah. Gus Bradley, again, he gets versatile defensive linemen to play well, so the situation is nice. But I've said multiple times, Jacksonville for years has had a pass rush problem. They went out, they signed Malik Jackson. They still have a pass rush problem. I'm sorry to say it to Jacksonville fans. I'm hoping Dante Fowler, their top 5 pick from last year, who missed the whole season with an injury, I'm hoping he can come back and provide some of the pass rush for them. But I'd much rather see them continue to develop through the draft and sign those bargain free agents who can give them a little bit of a bump. Like, I'd love to see them go out and sign, Patrick Robinson, the corner from San Diego. Love to see him sign somebody like that who's not going to cost 5 to 10% of their cap, but is a guy who could be a solid starter and upgrade the defense, which was their problem last year. So I get what you're saying, but I think that overpaying guys like Malik Jackson, Prince Amukamara, and Tayshaun Gibson aren't the right path for them. Oakland signed guys who I think are just better quality. Sean Smith is a legit starting corner, right?
Yeah.
Kalichi Osemele is one of the better guards in the league. So if you're overpaying for that guy, at least you're overpaying for a really top player at the position. Jacksonville, I think, is overpaying for a name rather than the actual quality.
You mentioned Dante Fowler. He misses he missed his whole entire rookie season. So really, his rookie, they're kind of getting. He was the number 3 pick in last year's draft, so he's coming back. So they have the number 3 pick, and then they have the number 5 pick in this year's actual draft. So I'd like to see them draft another something on D-line. Kind of quietly, the Patriots again have seemed like just found the perfect free agent signing, or not free agent, through trade, I guess, in the offseason with Martellus Bennett. What are you thinking about that? Because I feel like this is going to be like back when the Patriots had the Aaron Hernandez, Gronk for like those 2 years, whatever, and they were just tearing it up, and we're going to see that again this year.
Yeah, so I'm a little less bullish on the Martellus Bennett acquisition than most, just because I think Aaron Hernandez kind of complemented Rob Gronkowski's skill set, whereas I think Bennett kind of duplicates it in some regard. I mean, obviously, nobody's as good as Gronk, but Bennett's a good red zone threat. He's a guy who can win jump balls. Aaron Hernandez was more of a stretch the seam kind of a player. Almost played like an H-back role. That doesn't mean I don't like the trade. I mean, they gave up a 4th round pick. They got a 6th round pick in return. So they didn't give up a lot, and they got a starting caliber tight end to pair with their other guy. So I love it. And it's a great example of one of the most well-run organizations in sports. As much as I'm on record not liking the Patriots, my criticisms don't go as far as saying that they're not extremely well-run and extremely talented. They also quietly signed Chris Long, the veteran pass rusher from the Rams. Chris Long, he's been hurt the last few years, but he's the kind of guy who can come in to a Patriots team that needs him to play, 20 downs a game and make an impact. They shipped out Chandler Jones. Everyone says why they do that. Well, he's a free agent next year, and Bill Belichick just watched Olivier Vernon get $72 million or $85 million. I think 40 or 50 million guaranteed from the Giants. And Bill said, we're not giving that to Chandler Jones. We got to re-sign Jamie Collins. We got to re-sign, Malcolm Butler. We got to re-sign all these other guys. So they brought in Shea McClellan, a versatile player from the Bears who kind of didn't pan out. I think Belichick is going to do a great job of that. Chris Hogan, I actually think will do well. I don't think he's going to be the new Wes Welker. But the receiver from the Bills, I think Chris Hogan is exactly the kind of player that Tom Brady can find in that offense. So, they're scary. They've reached I always say this, Dwayne and I always say this about the Spurs. The Spurs are great until they're not. I'm going to stop trying to predict that they're going to fall off a cliff. I'm going to stop trying to predict they're too old. They're just great. They're just a great and a favorite until they're not. And the Patriots have definitely reached that status for me too. They're so well run. As long as Tom Brady is there, Bill Belichick is there, they're great until they show me they're not.
They're just deep. Chris Long may only play, like you said, 20 downs a game, but they're so deep at each position. And that's why one of the many why they've been so successful is they managed just to find guys the perfect fit in their in free agency, and they get guys at discounts. You talked about the Chandler Jones trade. I'm a big fan of Chandler Jones. I think he's a great player. I know he's had some off the field issues along with his brother, but Chandler Jones got traded to Arizona for Jonathan Cooper. Jonathan Cooper, he's had some injury problems. He's a former top 10 pick, and the past couple of years, he's just been hurt. Mm-hmm. But I kind of feel like he'll have a little bit of a resurgence in New England. It seems like it's kind of like the fountain of youth there. But I want to talk about Arizona because it seems they've made some, between Chandler Jones trading for him and signing Tyvon Branch, they're making some big moves here in the offseason. How do you like their chances heading into the 2016 season? Are you impressed? Do you feel like they can? I mean, they went to the NFC Championship last year.
Rich get richer, right?
Yeah.
If Carson Palmer can be what he was last year, I think they've got to be at least considered a favorite in the NFC. Chandler Jones is going to pair with Calais Campbell. Marcus Golden came on last year as a good quality pass rusher. That defense is going to be scary. And Tavon Branch is going to fit in really nice there. Rashad Johnson, we'll see if he re-signs or if he goes somewhere else and gets some money. But Tavon Branch is an athletic playmaker, and that's something that James Betcher, the defensive coordinator there, showed that he can make use of with the use of Tyrann Mathieu, and Dayon Buchanan has been a revelation, kind of as that hybrid linebacker safety role in that defense. So I love what Arizona's done, and quietly, they got rid of Jonathan Cooper, and then they may have even upgraded the position by signing Evan Mathis from Denver at the guard position. So. This is a team that saw David Johnson emerge as possibly an every down back for them. They run 4 deep at wide receiver if you count the speedster J.J. Nelson, who had a nice rookie year. They're going to go as far as Carson Palmer in the quarterback position can take them, and I would call them to win that division.
Nice, nice. I want to ask you one last question about NFL, we'll talk about one last team before we close out. My favorite team, the Chicago Bears. So, are you liking what they did with the linebacker core? Because their defense was atrocious last season, but with adding Danny Trevathan and Jarrell Freeman, they've definitely made some improvements. And also, even on the offensive side, they signed Bobby Massey from Arizona, who'll step in at right tackle, which means Kyle Long moves back to right guard, which I'm a big fan of. But, I love what they did on defense.
They're in such a transitional mode, Chicago is right now. I think they've got the right coach to do it. I like John Fox a lot.
Yeah.
I like what they've done. Danny Trevathan, I think, comes in and brings some much-needed athleticism to the defense. I think he's going to be an upgrade over Shea McClellan, who they never really found a spot for. I actually really like Akeem Hicks, too. I know it's hard to like anything from that Saints defense from last year, but Hicks is a guy who I think is going to pair nice with Eddie Goldman and Ego Ferguson on that defensive line, who are two very quality young players. Bobby Massey is probably a bit of an upgrade at the right tackle spot, so I like that. Kyle Long is a great player. He can play every position on that line, maybe except center. But they're going to have a rough year, I think. But I think they're on the right track. I think that shedding bad contracts, putting their faith in guys like Alshon Jeffrey, who they tagged with the franchise tag this year, and quietly adding talent where they can, I think is the right path for them. Adrian Amos was a nice piece on the defense too. So I think that defense has potential to get better, especially if they add some draft assets this year. So I'd be excited as a Chicago Bears fan for like 2017, 2018, a little less so for 2016.
Yeah, we're not going to do it this year. We'll do it the year after. Yeah. All right, but that's it, man. I think we covered a lot of topics. There's a lot going on in free agency, man. I love this time of year. I mean, we're in full swing NFL free agency. We got the draft coming up. A lot of good things happening, man. I love it. So I love looking at people's contracts. I'm like, man, that's ridiculous. And I like going back and looking at contracts from the 90s for some of the top free agents, and it's just like, the big money at that time, and it's just it'd be small potatoes in today's market. Yeah,
I think Deion Sanders signed like a $30 million deal in the mid-90s, and everyone thought it was crazy. Everyone thought it was absolutely insane. And it's the contracts have changed the game as a fan too. As a fan, you watch. Like no longer are we like, oh, that's great that they signed a quarterback. We're like, how much? How much was the money? Did
how much guaranteed?
And it's funny.
What's the cap hit?
Yeah, media has made fans so much more knowledgeable that it makes such a difference in the way that you root for things. I was talking about this with basketball, and I know you wanted to get going. So
no, it's fine.
I was talking about this with basketball too. Like I'm a big Portland Trailblazers fan, and Damian Lillard is having a great season, right?
Yeah.
And he's on the cusp of maybe qualifying for that Derrick Rose super kicker for that like Supermax contract. And so what the media and what these contracts have done is they've made Portland Trailblazer fans want Damian Lillard to do just good enough to be amazing and make the team great, but not quite good enough to get in all those kickers. Now, obviously, in practical application, we just want Dame to get all the accolades he could get. But it's an interesting dynamic that the media and the current state of sports has given fans.
That's funny. No, I get it completely, man. It's we have a lot of sports has a lot of smart fans these days because of the internet and overall media. Hey, if people want to find you, where can they look you up?
Hey, twoguyspodcast.com is excellent. You follow me on Twitter at twoguysbrandon. Definitely go to explorebigsky.com and 4for4.com. That's 4for4.com for all the fantasy advice. If you sign on to that site, then I do a discuss your team forum where we can talk fantasy teams. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, I'm around. You can find me.
I like explorebigsky.com. You wrote an article, NFL Coaching Carousel, a couple months ago, and it was a good read.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And also for everyone, if you want to follow Brandon, at least on my screen anyway, it has his Twitter handle and a top left handle of his video, quad, where it's blocked. You just got to click on that. All right, everyone. That's all the time we have. That's all the time we're going to do today anyway. I hope you enjoyed the show. Again, it's the first live episode. If you want more, just like the Facebook page, AIM Sports with Alex and Martin. Follow us on Twitter at AIM Sports Guys. Check out our website, aimsportsguys.com. And if you want to watch this video on replay, it won't be live, but you can watch it again later. It'll be uploaded on YouTube. On the YouTube search window, just type in AIM Sports with Alex and Martin. It'll take you to the channel that I created. So anyway, hope you enjoyed the show. Thanks for watching. Take care.